We're here with 360 Athletics. This is Coach Bettis. We're here and featuring with Coach Medina, and we're here featuring with Coach Mike Trevino, the head football coach in Lytle, Texas. Coach, how are you? How are you doing?
We're doing good, man. We're luckily we're very fortunate enough to kick off the season 1-0. It's been a long time coming since this school and this town and these kids, man, have earned the right to really get a W in the win column the right way to kick off the season. And it's just brought a new sense of pride, a new sense of energy and excitement, to our program, to these kids. And, what a way to win with a game-winning field goal last Friday night against Carrizo to kick off. And so we're definitely looking forward to week 2.
Oh, that's awesome. Know, baby. That's all you can do as a matter of fact, it is your first win as a head football coach, because that was your first game as a head football coach. So, Coach, congratulations to you. That is freaking awesome. Going 1-0, hopefully 2-0 this week. How does this week look, Coach? Who are y'all going against? When, where, and what does it look like?
We got the Kennedy Rockets from Edgewood ISD. I know they're a 4A level school. It's going to be another great test for us. They got big dudes up front as far as the defensive line. They're stacked, a little bit defensively as they are offensively. Their quarterback just got the John Wayne Player of the Week this past week, so we're definitely going to have our hands full. But our preparation and planning never changes. Our approach never changes. And like I said, the excitement and energy that's flowing through our building right now, through the community, is going to give us that momentum heading into Friday night. So we're definitely looking forward to it.
There are a lot of coaches out there that say, the game plan, doesn't change, and it goes from week to week, and, it doesn't matter the opponent. We're going to stick to our plan. Is that kind of your strategy, Coach, that you go into every week, just sticking to what you guys do week by week on a week-to-week basis?
Bringing in a new offensive coordinator, this year that I hired, his name is John Pena, and he kind of gave us some juice that we've been missing. We're installing a new triple option offense that I didn't even know much about either. I kind of wrinkled with it here and there, but now that we're full swing into it, kind of gives us something to look forward to each week, because we're still, putting in our own wrinkles, formations, motions, things like that. But we want to keep everything simple with our kids. So regardless of our approach on a Friday night, whether it's a different formation or different direction with the same play, the faster our kids understand our offense, the faster they're going to play. And so if we can simplify everything as much as possible, our game plan, didn't change on Friday. We stuck with what we've been doing all summer long. And we found a lot of success. We averaged over, 4 to 5 yards a carry. We had over 200 yards rushing. Unfortunately, we couldn't put points up on the board because of 5 turnovers, costly turnovers. But that was our focus this past week. We, taking care of the football, ball security, snaps between the center and the quarterback. And so that's the one thing we're really harping on this week is protecting the football and making sure we can keep our defense off the field.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that you all were running that offense. That's how I got to get on the field quickly in college, because we installed a triple option offense, and they wanted a little bit quicker guys on the offensive line. So I got to move up the depth chart pretty quickly, because I was one of the, I guess I like to say, more quick guys for being a big old 3-pound guy.
We talk about preparation all the time. And Coach, I believe you got hired in May?
Yep, in May.
So, being a first-year head football coach, getting hired in May, and at the 4A, sub 5A levels, you're not able to do spring ball. Talk to me about how the summer planning went with your strength and conditioning, and with UIL allowing coaches to do football for a specific amount of time. Talk to me about how you're approaching the summer and being able to install, because the triple option offense is something that takes timing, something that takes a lot of repetitions. What was your thought process getting hired late as a first-year head coach and installing a brand new offense?
I think the biggest challenge for me coming in so late was how many kids were we going to have this summer. So the numbers were the most important piece, and kind of gaining kids back and understanding that we're going to be a love first, relationship driven program. And that kind of reeled some guys in. You know, one of our top players right now didn't play football for the last 2 years. And he decided to come out this year. He's a junior and he's a heck of a baseball player that's going to go play college ball, but he decided to come out, and naturally, organically, he said, "Hey, I'm going to play football." And he was one of our standouts, you know, all summer long, committing to our strength and conditioning program. And luckily, you know, with the hour that the UIL has provided for coaches throughout the summer to do is, you know, we were able to do 30 minutes each day instead of just an hour each day. So we did 30 minutes of offense on Monday, you know, and then 30 minutes of defense on Tuesdays, and then 30 minutes. So we were able to kind of focus on an emphasis offensively, you know, throughout the week. And it allowed us to kind of pick up right where we left off, you know, when we started July 31st. And so that kind of gave us momentum into the season.
That window that the UIL and the hours that they allow in the summer are so beneficial for, especially for the sub 5As, because you guys are not allowed to do spring football and things like that. And so I think it really does benefit you. So kudos to y'all, coach, you know, being able to work your kids and get the most out of your kids during the summer. I was very fortunate to meet you 3 years ago. You know, we're both from the Rio Grande Valley, but not a lot of people know your origin, coach, and where you're from and things like that. So if you could just tell us a kind of a quick background about where you're from and things like that, just to let our listeners know about you a little more, coach.
Well, I was born and raised in Rainbow, Texas, and, you know,
Willacy County.
Going back to the Rio Grande Valley, you know, football is definitely different down there. Just because every school has its own stadium, you know, its own community. Every school down there in the valley has turf field, you know, so the emphasis in sports down there is huge. And so being able to grow up, you know, living that way and understanding a small town community, you know, it kind of gave me that sense of pride and sense of feel of coming to a place like Lytle and developing that same atmosphere and that same environment and that culture. You know, and, you know, graduated high school in 2010, you know, as a Rainbow Bearcat, and being able to move up to San Antonio to finish college here at UTSA and graduate in 2016, you know, kind of gave me a spark to get into coaching, you know, and being a part of the UTSA baseball program that I was for about a year and a half, being around that head coach that led that baseball program kind of got me more into like, hey, you know what, coaching is a calling. And that kind of where it led my path down to dive more into that and look forward to, you know, teaching kids every day. You know, that's the one thing that we look forward to. And I was very fortunate enough to be a head football coach at the age of 31, just because, again, these positions are definitely hard to come by. And we're taking it and running with it because we're excited of what we're building. You know, we live on our philosophy of serve their heart, not their talent. And that's the one thing that we try to do with our kids every day. We serve their heart. And, you know, our culture philosophy is dig deep, which is develop, impact, and guide. And that's the one thing I tell everybody, man, bring your shovel. You know, bring your shovel because it's time to dig. And when we're looking forward to how far we can dig to develop and build our foundation here in Lytle.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned being a young coach. How did it feel when you found out that you were going to get to be the head coach? What were the things that you were hopeful for? What were the things that you were maybe a little fearful about? Tell us a little about that.
You know, I've been kind of preparing for a head coaching position ever since the day I hired back here as the head softball coach in 2017. So being able to develop that blueprint of, okay, what do I want my program to look like? What I want it to feel like? What I want it to sound like? So over the course of the last 6 years, I've kind of been putting that together. You know, so when I was blessed with the opportunity to come here, and when I found out that I was the choice to lead this program, I couldn't be more excited because I knew exactly what I wanted to do and how to do it. Regardless, has there been mistakes? Heck yeah, there's a mistake almost every day. But again, understanding that there's going to be mistakes is the response after that. And that's the way we teach the kids. I always tell them mistakes are bruises, not tattoos. Mistakes are going to go away. They're not going to stay. And so that's the one thing. And our focus is always going to be love and leadership. Like I said before, we're a love first, relationship driven program. So if we keep that approach every day, then everything else will take care of itself. And that's how you win a football game 3-0, last Friday night.
That's right. You talked about a little bit about your program's philosophy and how you envision and, teaching kids to dig deep and to bring their shovels. Coach, how important is it to teach this young generation of kids to dig not only deep in the game of football, but in the game of life?
And I think it's been everything that I've been through myself, just from personal experience. I wasn't supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be sitting in the chair. 31 years ago, I was born. I was diagnosed with a diaphragmatic hernia. I was born with one lung. My other lung was collapsed completely. And so when you're able to experience adversity and obstacles at such an early age in life, even when I didn't know nothing, I didn't know anything was going on at the time, my parents being able to share that story with me and, going through that for 3.5 months, as a newborn, being able to share that experience with the kids now, understand like, hey, coach has been through something like that, and, going through my sophomore year in high school, our house had burned down. We lived in a hotel for 2.5 months. I had another surgery, that same year in 2006. My mom was diagnosed with cancer that same year in 2007. And I'd never thought I was going to be a teacher and a coach because I couldn't even pass my certification test. I took the test 5 times and I failed it 5 times. And you only get 5 attempts. So there was another process of me understanding what it meant to dig deep. That's kind of how the philosophy, built itself. And, being able to relate to kids now, especially with me at such a young age, it's easier to grab their heart because I understand where they're coming from. And I always share this with people. Everybody has a story you know nothing about. So, and we try to look under the hood, which dig it a little bit deeper into their heart is what's that story? I want to hear that story. So we try to do that every day, within our program is how far can we dig into a kid's heart so we can understand truly, what he's about.
So you talked about a little bit about your childhood and the adversities that you face and how you have to dig deep, Coach. So tell me, to get to where you are, who influenced you, Coach? There had to have been somebody that influenced you in your life to get you to where you are now. So can you tell me who was your biggest influence?
I can always revert back to my dad. My dad being my first coach, growing up through Little League, going through high school, going through the first years of college. My dad has always been our rock in our family. And it's hard sharing things like this sometimes because, my dad has his own story, about, not really being the man he wanted to be while me and my brother were growing up. Everybody had a challenge. We had a challenge, as overcoming that obstacle and adversity, throughout our years. And, now he's nobody else I'd rather emulate than him because, we don't live under the roof anymore, and every time, him and my mom, come up almost every weekend just to visit because he knows how impactful he was, in our life. And we're always going to love that man. We're always going to serve that man. And he continues to do that every day now, regardless of what happened years ago. I've always told him, I love you. And sometimes we have a hard time saying that, especially to our own family. But, I wouldn't be here without him. And he continues to dig every day for our family, even though, we're not under the same roof anymore. And on top of that, same thing where I've gotten a lot of my philosophy and foundation has been, listening to podcasts and listening to other coaches speak. And that's why I've kind of always leaned on the Dabo Swinney philosophy and his approach that he's built and his foundation he's built at Clemson. is the same approach here. So the same blueprint that I have as a head coaching approach is the same blueprint he has, his head coaching approach. That's where I got to serve your heart, not your talent. And you know, that's been huge, you know, especially me coming in as a first year head coach, and trying to dive deep into this community. And that one thing that we resemble, you know, every day is this sign right here, and that means I love you. So we share this with our kids, we share this with our community. You know, on Friday night after the game, when we won 3-0, this was held up in the stands and on the sideline. And so it's special when we can identify and emulate our culture, you know, based off of, you know, one little thing such as a hand signal, you know, because it's meaningful. It's meaningful to a lot of people here. So, you know, the big two influences in my life has definitely been my dad and a little bit of Dabo Sweeney, you know, that I like to throw in here, you know, in our program.
That's
Now,
awesome.
how did you get that message? Or sorry, can you show it again? I'm trying to figure out how to.
Come out, dude.
How did you get that message not just into your program, but now you said it's in the whole community? How were you able to do that to transfer to the community?
We talk about it every day. We're not afraid to talk about love. You know, we emulate and we exemplify that every day. And so, you know, when we put this up, it's forget about me, I love you. You know, and so the way we say I love you too is you just point the index finger back at somebody and it means I love you too. And so we're not afraid to talk about love here. You know, we try to demonstrate that as a coaching staff with the kids. I always tell them, what are the big 3 H's in our programs? We give a hug, a handshake, and a high five. That's how we demonstrate love. And that's the same thing that we talk about as far as giving EGBs. And we identify EGBs in our program as energy giving behaviors. You know, and that's what I talk about, a hug, a handshake, and a high five. And that's how we demonstrate love in our program every day.
That's super cool.
As we've started this curriculum that we're doing and we're visiting with athletic directors, the constant theme has been how can we get our athletes to be productive, good young people, productive citizens in the community. And so I think you hit the nail on the head, Coach, when you talked about serving the heart, not the talent. It's super important because in all reality, we would love all our players to go play at the next level. But in reality, that's not going to happen. And so I think a lot of times as coaches, we've forgotten, like, hey, these kids are not going to go play at the next level. This is their one-stop shop. They're going to play high school ball. They're going to enjoy it. But we also got to remember to serve the heart and not their talent. So appreciate that, Coach. That is awesome. Great philosophy. Great way to, you know, just serve the community and building future leaders. One thing I wanted to talk to you, Coach, about is what is your vision for your program this first year? I mean, do y'all have goals set up? I mean, what are y'all's vision and goals? What is your vision as a leader, and what are y'all's goals as team goals for y'all's season?
You know, it's definitely, you know, been a place that's been hard to win. That's been challenged by, you know, overturning head coaches every 2 years. And so the biggest thing for me, it's not about going 10-0. You know, are we on the path to that? You know, fortunately, yes, starting 1-0. But, you know, regardless, if we go 1-9 the rest of the season, I'm gonna be able to sleep at night because I know we're doing things the right way. You know, we can win off the field just as much as we can win on the field. And that's why, to me, I think the culture approach and changing the foundation here that the kids have never had or have struggled having that's going to be our number one thing from a coaching staff standpoint is to make sure, you know, we're building this thing from the ground up.
Awesome.
Now, Coach, while you're a young coach, there's still coaches that are younger than you. What advice would you give to a brand new young coach out there?
You know, I think the biggest thing is how much can you gravitate towards a student athlete? You know, how well can you gravitate towards a student athlete? That's the biggest thing. That's why, again, it's always, instead of giving them a fist bump or a handshake, you know, just put an arm around them and give them a hug. Why? Because now he knows he can trust you. And it's having one-on-one conversations right off the bat, you know, bringing them into an office or sitting down with them. You know, one thing that we do here in our program is I call it a safe seat, not a hot seat. And it's a safe seat that we call to allow the kid to share his 3 H's, who is his hero, right? What's his hardship and what's his highlight of his life, you know? And so when you're able to dig a little bit deeper like that with the kids, for them to share those 3 H's that are meaningful to them, you know, that's where the trust starts to come into. And that's the one thing that we demonstrate every day. And I tell people this all the time: transparency creates trust. So when you can't be transparent with somebody, there's always going to be a barrier between you and that person. And so when you can open up your heart, when you can dig a little bit deeper, you know, like we demonstrate every day, that's where the barrier is broken down. The barrier is broken down, and now that kid's going to trust you, and he's going to do everything he can, you know, on any given night that we play the game of football, you know, regardless of it's in season or off season, he's going to do everything he can to continue to help you build the foundation that we're laying right now, you know, to promote our program, to promote our kids, to promote our community, and to make sure we focus on loving each other every day.
You know, football is known to being a tough sport, creating tough men. I mean, the hitting, the tackling, all that stuff that goes into just creating a tough man and creating a tough shield. You know, and a lot of young men, they put shields on in front of them. Coach, it is so hard. I remember being a young kid. It was hard for me to open up and be vulnerable. What are some, you know, key tips that you can give that helps, you know, break down that barrier so that your kids can be vulnerable and open up about the H's that you talked about?
You know, sometimes it's hard. And I think that every day is a challenge, you know, because some kids don't want to open up, especially with, you know, the previous 3 years that we just went through with COVID. You know, that became a social challenge because kids stayed behind a screen. They stayed at home. You know, they didn't get much exposure to people. So when we can strategically create opportunities like that in our program, you know, for example, I created an All-American Leadership Council, you know, which is our top 10 guys in our program. So when we meet together as a group of 10, that's where it starts. It's smaller group, you know, situations. It's not larger group situations. You know, just like us three here, you know, it's easier to open up to each other when it's just our triangle rather than it's when it's 50, 60 guys in a huddle, you know, talking to each other like that. So when you can start in small group, you know, whether it's one-on-one conversations or, you know, your group of 10, you know, that's where it starts. And then that's where it can flourish, you know, when you plant the seeds, like, hey, I'm going to plant the seed today, but then in a year, I'm going to see it bloom. And so that's where I highly recommend, you know, a lot of coaches start. You know, you can't just speak out loud. You know, you got to start small and demonstrate small.
Awesome.
Now, that's something you have your athletes, that leadership, All-American Leadership Council. Do you have them share their 3H's with the group's intention? Like, you kind of like forcing them, or do you have your coaching staff ever do that? Is that something that y'all do?
Yeah, so I've actually started recently. We had our second meeting actually today with that All-American Leadership Council, and that's how we're going about each week. So last week I had one kid share, and then today I had another kid share. So slowly but surely, that barrier is starting to be broken down. Why? Because they're starting to trust each other in that room. You know, it's not around anybody else. You know, we stay in our own little team room that we have, and that's where conversations are had, because they're basically our second eyes as a coach. You know, they're going to tell us what's going on in the locker room. They're going to tell us what's going on in the classroom. They're going to tell us what's going on at home. And when we know we can trust that group of 10, whenever we come back each week and meet every Wednesday, they're going to be like, hey, coach, this is what we need to work on. Hey, this is what, you know, we're evaluating and we're observing, because sometimes you get the best answers from your own kids. And, you know, that's the same way we developed our practice plan, because I asked the kids, I'm like, hey, what's going to benefit you? We're a small 3A school, and we only have time to work offense and defense on the same day. We don't have the luxury of just doing offense only, defense only. And so we restructured our practice organization based off of their answers. And just because, again, that gives them ownership as well. You know, when we can provide that ownership with them, they're going to run with it, you know, as fast as they can, just to help us, you know, develop this thing and lead everything in a positive way.
You know, Coach Trevino, we're here with Coach Trevino in Lytle, Texas, head football coach, athletic coordinator. Coach, being a first-year athletic coordinator, first year head football coach, what are some things that you've encountered this year so far that you wish that you would have been prepared for?
Definitely understanding, the amount of work that it takes to build something. That's parents included. How much community involvement can we promote? Because again, it's, as a head football coach, you want to just focus solely on football. I want to turn this program around. I want to go 10-0, but that's not where it's been. The last 4 months. We've been trying to, like I said, dig everywhere in this community, that by going from, high school to junior high to elementary schools to our primaries, to hosting events. We just did our Heroes and Helmets, where we bring in, the kids and their parents to put the decal on. We've done the Moms Football 101, where we bring all the moms in and we hold a football night. And that was a huge success. But it's just also being present, everywhere else other than just the field house and on the field. Going into local communities and just saying hello, to those people. That's been a lot of my grunt work here, just because I want them to know what we're about. I want them to know what we're building. I want them to know and speak our terminology in our program. What's the I love you sign mean? What's the serve your heart, not your talent? How do you define that? So that's, as being a first year head coach, that's been, more than everything else I've been doing, is making sure people understand how we're doing things, what we do, and then how we demonstrate that on a daily basis.
What's the old saying? Build it and they will come. That's so important, Coach, that you talked about being present and building a culture, building a program. You have to present yourself and you have to make yourself available. And when you start building, people will come, and people, like, you had a great success with your mom's coaching 101, your Heroes and Helmets. I just hope for continued success, Coach, as you're, including the parents and the community. They'll come, Coach, and the stands will start to fill up, and you'll start to see a lot of success, and it'll all correlate together as you build your program. So that's awesome, Coach. Kudos to you and your staff. I know it's countless hours that y'all are putting in. Everybody just sees the coaching profession as on Friday nights when we're coaching the game, but there's countless hours that you are spending with these children of the Lytle community, with the parents. There's just countless events that you have to attend, and that takes away time from you and your family. Coach, I know you have a family. I know you have a newborn. You have another son. And so talk to me a little bit about that, Coach. How's that going?
It's crazy, because now I'm a girl dad, and having a 3-year-old, along with a 2-month-old who's about to be 3 months, on Sunday, it's overwhelming. And, I give my wife, a ton of credit, because she's definitely my rock, but she's just as much into building this program as much as I am. She's here almost every day. She promotes our program every day on social media. She knows every single parent here almost already, because she's at every event. She's at every football game. She understands, what we're trying to do, and we do it together. A lot of the conversations I have at home with her are, hey, what can I do, to impact the community this time, and she tags along with me. She gives me great ideas that I put together, for our football program, because she knows how much it's meaningful to us, because all we want to see are these kids succeed, because it hasn't been done here in a long time, and I think it's been since 2013 since Lytle last won a district title, so it's been almost over a decade now that they haven't experienced that. But another thing too that I'd like to talk about is social media presence. How much are you promoting the program? Because everybody has a phone now. Everybody's on a laptop. Everybody's scrolling, through Facebook. And that's the one thing that she has tagged along with me, is every opportunity that we get, I tag her in everything, because I want to promote our program just as much as she does. And she's putting captions on everything. She's sending it out to people. She promotes it, so much that people understand and know who she is. She's my wife. She's not a coach's wife. She's my wife. And she's doing a heck of a job as a mom, taking care of 2 kids and raising 2 kids at home. And she has her own little business as well. So she's a business owner working from home, an entrepreneur. So, and the fortunate thing about what we do also here with our work time is we do everything in the morning. So we're up here at 5:30 a.m. every day. The kids show up at 6 a.m. every day, and we're off the field at 8:06 every day. And after that, after school, we go from 4:10 to 4:40, and we're done. So we're leaving the field house at 5 o'clock every day. And that's been a huge deal for us, being able to do that, because I want to keep my kids fresh. I want to keep my coaches fresh. And when we're able to go home every day at 5 o'clock, it definitely keeps my wife happy. It definitely keeps coaches happy. And that's the reason why I always say fresh is best. So if we can stay fresh, throughout the whole season, throughout the off season, then it just brings us back wanting to do more. So we definitely use our time here wisely to invest and invite people, to be a part of our program.
We talking about being fresh is best. I know there's a lot of coaches out there. They eventually get burnt out. How do you keep your drive? I know it's even right now, as we've been talking to a lot of different ADs, they're saying, there's a lack of coaches out there. There's people that are filling out the applications less and less. And so how do you keep your drive, and how do you keep all of your coaches' drive going?
Especially at a place like this that hasn't had success in a long time, and me being able to experience that while I was here from 2017 to 2020, that's kind of what drives us here. Is we want to give these kids so much that they've never experienced before. We want to give this community so much that they've never experienced before either. So when we could start off the season 1-0, that what better gift, that we could have started off our 2023 season than that. And the stands were, full like they've never been before. The emotions that were on Friday night, that has never been experienced before. That's the drive. That's the motivation. But also it's, having a kid, text me, a couple of months ago and said, "Hey, coach, I'm getting baptized. Can you come to my baptism?" That's what we're looking for. That's what's heart filling. Because when you're strategically, placing the good Lord, at the center of your program, and a kid can go and say, "Hey, coach, I gave my life to Christ. I want you to come to my baptism." That's how I know we're working the right way.
Yeah, coach, as we're going.
Oh, go ahead, Josh.
As we're, talking with a bunch of athletic directors, there are a ton of coaching vacancies still. There are football staffs out there, volleyball staffs, basketball staffs that are a shortage in coaches because a lot of people are leaving the profession. So, kudos to you and your drive, coach. I know it's important for you to reach these kids' hearts, and just being a role model for these kids, because we all know the kids need it, especially nowadays. I mean, after the pandemic, they need role models like you, coach. And so you're doing a great job. Keep up the great work. A couple of lighter ended questions, coach, I had for you. I wanted just to, see what is a pregame tradition that you have, coach, that you must do before a game?
Again, one of my biggest influencers, Dabo Swinney. He talks about it, and they demonstrate it. We call it the Walk of Champions. And that's what the Clemson calls it, the Walk of Champions. So it's one thing that we do, that we started last Friday. And we have to practice everything so the kids understand why we do it. So once we arrive at a stadium, whether it's here at home or like we'll be traveling on Fridays to Edgewood, is we get off, we go to the locker room, and we come out, we come to the 50-yard line on our half. And coaches and players included, we link up in hands and arms, and it's our way of walk the field. We link up together and we walk a quiet 50 all the way. And slowly and slowly and slowly, we're just changing the mindset. It's a championship approach, and so when we walk our 50, we pass the field goal post, and then we blow the whistle, and they all get loud and shout excitement, energy, enthusiasm. And then we break it out, and they go back to the locker room, because we're trying to keep them protected from the heat. but the Walk of Champions has been something that we installed this year. And that's the one thing that our focus is on game day, because it's just a championship mindset approach shift. You know, I want you to say, hey, the one time you step on this field, it's a mindset shift. And, you know, the way Dabo does it at Clemson is the same way I wanted to do it here. So we experienced that for the first time last Friday. And I'll tell you what, it's definitely, you know, helped our kids understand, like, hey, you know what, if I'm linked with somebody, it's a coach or a player, you know, I'm going to look to my left and my right and say, I got your back. You know, and regardless of the scoreboard at the end of the night, we're going to respond, you know, not based off the result, but based off, you know, the people that we have next to us. And so that pregame tradition is one thing that we started.
That's so cool that you brought that specific illustration up, or that activity up. I used to use that often in my closing when I would speak at a school or an athletic team. I would talk about Dabo and the Clemson team doing that walk team.
Do you have any specific pregame meals that you do, Coach, for yourself? Any secret special shirt or cologne or pants or shoes or socks that you put on that you got to put on game days?
I wish I did, man. You know, the one thing that really helps me is kind of taking a shower. You know, kind of just shower up to kind of, you know, like I said, fresh. Yeah, fresh is best. And, you know, we can just kind of change our own mindset, you know, especially on game days. I'm so worried about everything else, you know, making sure, especially when we play here at home, you know, where's the visiting team going? You know, is their door open? Is their locker room open? You know, what time are they getting here? You know, making sure I have coaches assigned everywhere else, making sure we're doing our highlight video, you know, all that stuff going on. So that's the one thing that I really try to make time for, especially for myself, is hey, let me get fresh again. So I'll just kind of, you know, take a quick shower break and kind of get myself, you know, in that mindset shift as well. And then I try to stay away from energy drinks, man. But I feel like they're still killing me. I feel like I always have to have one, you know, a day of a game, even though my adrenaline and my heart rate's already high. You know, I've been trying to do a little better job of that, but I feel like I always need one, you know, so it's always with me on game days.
The one
That's
thing,
one of my secret bad habits is I love an energy drink too.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Both of you guys are very bad at energy drinks. Trust me, because I know both of y'all very well. One thing y'all listeners don't know about Coach Mike Trevino is that he is an avid 4 a.m. Well, no, what time do you get up, Coach? 3:30 in the morning?
3:45, my alarm goes off.
3:45, and he's at the gym by 4:45, and he has an energy drink in hand before 5 a.m., and he's ready to rock and roll.
Go into a quick little shout out to one of our sponsors. Innovation Nutrition has the great energy drinks over in Brownsville, Texas. Just in a little joke there with one of my friends who has that business. He is sponsoring one of our leadership events, but I did want to close with, clearly you love Dabo Swinney, and I'm sure you follow Clemson. Who are some of the other teams that you love, whether it be professional, college? Who else do you love?
You know, I've always been a UT fan. You know, I through and through, it's the same way. Like, we're always going to be a Dallas Cowboy fan, regardless of what happens. You know, but one program that I've always also attached myself to is the Minnesota football program. Why? Because of PJ Fleck. You know, PJ Fleck kind of also, you know, added to that blueprint of head coaching. You know, for me, you know, he has his book, Row the Boat. You know, that's their motto there in Minnesota. And he also created a step-by-step process for me as far as year 1, year 2, year 3. And year 1, it says you got to dig. And, you know, that's kind of where it kind of resides with me, because we dig deep here every day. So he had a picture of a tractor, you know, digging up dirt. And right below it says year 1, dig. And I was like, well, shoot, I love that. I love that approach. You know, year 2, you lay the foundation. Now you start to see the cement, you know, what we're standing on. And then year 3, you see the framework. You see the wood. You see the nails. You know, you see everything kind of being built upon the foundation after digging, after laying the foundation, and now you're seeing the framework go up. And so he definitely had, again, another influencer on me has been him, with his book that he's read, with the podcast that he shared, and with his program building that he's done, you know, at Western Michigan and now at Minnesota. So it's allowed me to kind of understand, his approach to head coaching. And the same thing, he focuses on the kids first. We always say that, player first. Person over player. Person over player, and that's another thing from Dave Aranda that we've gotten from Baylor. So I've kind of stolen everything from everybody and kind of put it into my own. That's why as far as culture philosophy, it's funny because Lytle Pirates, the LP, the initials for LP is for Lytle Pirates, but I also turned it into a love purposely. There's your first LP. A lead passionately. There's your second LP, and then a listen patiently. There's our third LP. So it kind of meshed. It was a God-given approach here, to be called back to this place. And so that's why we understand, love, lead, and listen. Those are our big 3 L's here, along with the big 3 H's. And so it kind of meshed with the LP, initials. And I'm like, well, you know what? This is where God needs us right now. And so we're doing God's work here every day.
You are where you're supposed to be, Coach, and that's for dang sure. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. This will be the last question, Coach. There are a lot of young, aspiring head football coaches, athletic coordinators, athletic directors. What advice would you give them, those that are aspiring to be in those positions and the seat that you're in?
Try to attach yourself to somebody. I definitely took the time, my first 2-3 years, especially when I was back here from 2017 to 2020, I took the time to call, current athletic directors, head football coaches, and went to go visit them. And 2 right off the top of my head are Mark Soto, who is currently the head football coach at Judson. He's the one that I visited with, I think it was in my second year here in Lytle when he was in San Marcos. I went to go visit him and kind of just talk with him, culture, philosophy, and what he's built there in San Marcos. And now he's been at Johnson and now back at Judson. What was his approach to that? And the next one was Coach Mendoza, who is also the Judson High School principal. When he was at Veterans Memorial there in Judson ISD, Richard Mendoza, those were the 2 that I kind of talked to and kind of went to go visit with to make sure I understood, what it meant to be a head football coach, what it meant to build a program, what it meant to be present in the community, and just to love and serve people every day, because that's the most important piece, especially in a leadership role now, is you got to love people, regardless of the fact that if you don't, you got to find a way to. And that's why, I'm very transparent here. I love it when parents want to talk. Why? Because I want them to be heard and valued as well. And so for definitely aspiring head coaches, for new coaches getting into the profession, find yourself a mentor. So those are definitely 2 of mine that I can really say, hey, I understood, how they built their program, what they did as a leader, what they continue to do now at their current positions. That's the one thing that I would definitely easily, be willing to share with somebody is go find someone that had success. How did they do it? Go find it, and then just continue to find other people. There's another one that I really look forward to speaking to a lot is the head football coach at Austin Vandergrift, Drew Sanders. I just got off the phone with him last week because I had a question about something that I didn't know. And so he was formerly at Taft, back in 2006, where Josh and I worked together, and the last couple of years. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to see how someone else does it. I want to understand someone else, what's their approach to this problem or this question, what's their solution? And so never be afraid to ask. That's the one thing. You never know everything, and you can't act like you know everything. So that's the one thing I try to do every day. I'm like, hey, you know what? If I don't have the answer, I'm going to find it. And I'm going to try to find it from someone else who's been there and done that.
Awesome, Coach. Well, we have Coach Mike Trevino here with the Lytle Pirates head football coach. Coach, thank you for joining us today. Good luck this week against the John F. Kennedy Rockets, and kick some butt, Coach. Good luck to you and your program and the rest of the football season. And thank you for being here with us today with 360 Athletics. I'm Coach Josh Bettis.
Jonathan Medina.
And let's go. It's game time.
Let's
Later,
go.
bro. Good to see you, man. Have a good day.
All right, guys. Thank you. Dig deep.